Good afternoon. My name is Erwin Chemerinsky, and I have the great pleasure of being the Dean of Berkeley Law. I want to welcome you to the reunion. I hope you've been part of other activities, but if not, it's a chance to say how thrilled we are to have you part of the reunion. I wish so much that we could have done this in person. The public health situation made that inadvisable, but we're definitely planning on an in-person reunion in fall of 2022. And I hope that everyone who is here today and yesterday, everyone whose class is celebrating reunion this year, last year, they will all be together next year for a very special and very unique in-person reunion. It's tradition that long precedes me that as part of the reunion, the dean does a state of the law school address. I'll keep my remarks relatively brief because I want to be sure I get the chance to answer any questions that you have with regard to the law school. After I talk for a few minutes, I'll then take the questions. My spectacular assistant, Whitney Mello, is here to read the questions to me. So I'll speak for a bit, then your questions read by Whitney, and I'll do my best to answer anything that you want to ask. Overall, I have a very positive message to deliver today. The state of the law school is excellent. As I've said, other town hall meetings, ultimately, the quality of any educational institution is a product of three things: the students, the faculty, and the programs. Let me tell you why each is strong. And then I'll also be candid with you and share with you my concerns about the law school going forward. First, in terms of students, we had a dramatic increase in applications from last year to this year. A year ago, for the class that entered in August of 2020, we received about 5,500 applications. We wanted to be 320 slots. This year, we received well over 8,000 applications for 320 slots. Nationally, there was an increase in law school applications, but our increase was far greater than that. We took 5% fewer students than the year before. So not only did we take a smaller number, we took a smaller percentage because we wanted to be sure that our class ended up about 320. We had the highest yield in the history of Berkeley Law. Almost 40% of those who we had accepted decided to come to Berkeley Law. This is unheard of. The result is we have a much larger entering class than we wanted or anticipated. We have a class of 385 1Ls. Now, as one of my colleagues, Andrew Brott, put it, this is an embarrassment of riches. It's a wonderful first-year class, just a larger one than we had planned. In terms of the numbers, this is the class that has the highest median LSAT in the history of Berkeley Law, the median LSAT of 169. A year ago, it was 168. When I arrived here, it was 167. It has a GPA equal to the highest in the history of Berkeley Law at 3.84. We continue to dramatically increase the diversity of the students. We have 50% more Latinx students than we did just a year ago. We continue to increase the number of Black students in the class. When I arrived in 2017, there were 12 Black students in the first year class. I have to tell you, I felt panic over that. It was far too few. And I worried it would become a vicious cycle. It'd be harder to attract African-American students with so few here. We looked to see what was the problem. It wasn't a lack of applications. It wasn't a lack of admission, but we were doing poorly in yield. The Black students we were admitting were going other places. So we developed a very concerted effort to reach out to the students we'd admitted, to recruit them to come here. I am so grateful to our many alumni who each year participate in this process. You have made all the difference. The next year, 2018, we went up to 28 Black students. The year after that, we went up to 33 Black students. Last year, it was 43, and this year is almost exactly the same number. So there has been almost a fourfold increase in just the few years that I've been here. Over 60% of our students, first year class, are women. We actually did almost 2/3 female students. Of the top 20 law schools, we are the school that has the largest percentage of women students. Now, to be clear, we give no preference in admission on account of gender or on account of race. We're prohibited from doing so by Prop 209. We've shown that we're simultaneously dramatically increasing diversity, but also increasing the traditional measures of median LSAT and median GPA. The students are terrific. I'm teaching an upper level class in federal courts. Next year, I'll teach con law. We'll have first year students, but I've talked to our first year teachers and they just rave about the quality of the students. To be sure, 385 students poses challenges for us. We created an additional first year super mod in each class. We also have hired additional staff in many programs. We hired 2 additional LRW instructors, for example, because legal writing research, because of just having more students. But it really is an embarrassment of riches. We also had a far greater yield for LLM students than we expected. We wanted an LLM class of 220. We ended up with 280. Again, it's an embarrassment of riches, but it also poses challenges just in terms of finding spaces in classrooms for all who are here. I think our terrific track record this year in yield for both JD and LLM students is a reflection of how Berkeley Law is thought of across the country. Over half of our JD students come from outside California, no previous connection to this state. We are, by every measure, truly a national law school. The second thing that determines the quality of a school is the faculty. And we have such a terrific faculty. You might have seen just recently a study came out. It's done every 3 years by professors at St. Thomas Law School in Minnesota that measures law school faculties in terms of scholarly impact. And they have a whole formula for assessing how often faculty are cited. Berkeley is 6th in the country in the ranking of scholarly impact. I think it reflects that we truly have one of the best faculties in the country when it comes to scholarship and research. And they're also a terrific teaching faculty. We have 3 new faculty members who joined us this year. Jennifer Chacon was a professor at UCLA Law School. She's a graduate of Yale Law School. She clerked on the Ninth Circuit. She was in private practice. She taught at UC Davis and UC Irvine before UCLA. And her primary specialty is in immigration law and constitutional law. She also teaches criminal law and criminal procedure. Jonathan Glader joined us this year, also a Yale Law School graduate. He spent over a decade as a reporter at the New York Times before entering academia, initially at UC Irvine, and then at UCLA Law School, where he's a tenured professor. His focus is primarily on consumer law, especially student debt, but he also teaches in the criminal law and business area as well. Osagie Obasogie is a graduate of Columbia Law School. He's a PhD from the Jurisprudence Social Policy program at Berkeley. He had been a professor at Hastings and most recently was a professor at the School of Public Health here on the Berkeley campus, and we're thrilled to welcome him. We have hired 16 new faculty since I arrived in 2017. I was one of 5 who came that year. So altogether, we have 21 faculty who have joined us in the last 4 years. I don't think that any law school country can say that. And they are superb by every measure. If you look at their scholarship, you look at their teaching, they're wonderful. I'm also very proud of the diversity. Of the 16 faculty that have been hired since I came here, 9 are faculty of color. So in addition to the students and the faculty, what makes us special is our programs. And our programs are wonderful. Obviously, the most important of those is what goes on in the classroom every day. our teaching of students. Last year, we were entirely online. All classes and activities were done by Zoom. We started classes this year on Monday, August 16th. We finished 6 weeks of classes, and we are entirely in person. And I am thrilled to be back. I'm teaching, as I said, a large section of federal courts. And I saw last year we can teach online if we need to, but I see this year how much better, how very different it is to get to be in the classroom with students. So many students have come up to me in the halls, and students I don't know yet, who said how thrilled they are to be back in person. Part of what makes Berkeley special is its intellectual vibrancy. I've never been part of such an intellectually active community. This is reflected in the many programs put on literally every day, every week. We have so many centers doing great things. The Berkeley Center on Law Technology, the Berkeley Center on Law and Business, the Center for Law, Energy, and the Environment, the Henderson Center for Social Justice, the Berkeley Judicial Institute, the Center on Consumer Law and Economic Justice, the Civil Justice Research Initiative, the Center for Reproductive Justice, the Human Rights Center, and on and on. Each of them is doing great work, but also each of them is providing opportunities for students to be engaged and writing programs for students on an ongoing basis. The other thing that I always say so distinguishes Berkeley Law is its commitment to public service. Here too, I think we are the strongest law school in the country in terms of what we do for public service. Last year, 94% of our first-year students did pro bono work. There's no requirement, but it's certainly our culture. Virtually every student will do pro bono work while here. Over half of our students will participate in our clinics while they're here. And these are ways in which we serve our community and society. So when you put all of those things together, you can see why I think the law school is in excellent shape. And I'm certainly so very proud to be a member of the faculty and dean. And yet I have to be honest with you, we face challenges. Let me talk about those challenges. And some will be familiar to you, some perhaps less so. The first challenge is financial. I'm asked sometimes, what keeps me up at night worrying about the law school? And I confess to you, it's about money. We no longer receive very much in terms of funds from the state or the campus. If you look at our $120 million operating budget for this year, less than 5% comes from state money. We are tremendously tuition dependent and very dependent on the support from our alumni. We're now at the stage where we're charging market level tuition. We're in the third year of 5 years of an increase in our professional degree supplemental tuition. I wish we could go back to what it was when some of you were in law school. But at that time, the state was paying over 95% of the costs. The way in which we've dealt with this is to dramatically increase scholarships. The year I arrived, each class was getting about $3.5 million in scholarships. The law school scholarship budget was about $10.5 million. The entering class this year has got $7.2 million in scholarships, or to put it another way, we're spending almost $22 million in scholarships. We have more than doubled the scholarship amount since 2017. It's essential. It's essential to make law school affordable to otherwise who wouldn't be able to come. It's essential to attract top students to Berkeley. It's essential to be able to ensure the diversity of the class in every possible way. But it is a very substantial cost. To put it another way, if you look at a $120 million budget, for $20 million of it goes to scholarships, almost 20%. Additionally, we face great costs with regard to faculty recruitment and retention. We are constantly competing for faculty with schools that have far more in the way of resources than what we can offer. And so we need to have the resources to be able to do that. Last year was an especially difficult financial year for us. We had less than half the number of LLM students. And so we had $9 million less in LLM revenue compared to the year before. Also last year, the campus cut our budget by $2.5 million. They took $2.5 million away from us. This year, they're taking another $2 million away from us. And the Office of the President took away about $500,000 last year of the money that it provided us for a separate program. Altogether, it was a $12 million loss for us last year. I made two commitments and I articulated at this town hall last year. We would not compromise our educational program in any way, and we would not lay off any staff. I'm proud to say we didn't in any way hinder the educational program. We didn't cancel a class or a lecture, and we didn't lay off a single staff member. And I'm proud that we actually broke even for the year. We were able to do that by keeping some positions open, by having a good year in development, by not having to pay for travel, not having to pay for meals in the law school and the like. But there is no doubt that we face serious financial challenges. One of them, again, being totally candid with you, is that in 2012, when the new building was built, the one that has the library in Cafe Zeb, it was paid for with a $90 million mortgage. We pay $4.4 million a year in debt service on that mortgage. In 2025, not very far away, that's going to increase to 5.5 million. And then in 2026, it'll increase to 7.3 million, which will be what it will be until the year 2040. We can't afford that. We have to find a way to be able to raise the money, to find the funds, to be able to deal with that. Let me put this to you with regard to US News rankings that I know is a crude measure. If we didn't have to spend the 4.4 million on debt service, if we could put it into scholarships, we would be ranked 6 or maybe even 5 in US News rather than 9. If we could put that $7.2 million in 2026 into scholarships, we could be a top 5 law school. We've got to find a way to use the money for that in our programs, not for debt service. The second challenge we face is we are desperately out of space. We are out of space for everything. We don't have enough classroom space given the size of the school. We're run out of faculty offices. We're looking to hire 6 new faculty to begin July 1st, 2022. I have no idea where we are going to put them. We're out of space for our clinics. We're out of space for our centers. We have 93 student groups. We don't have enough space for that. We had a plan, and you might have heard me talk about it past. It was to take the unused library stacks at the top of the law building and convert them to usable space. When the library moved in 2012, it vacated that stack space, and it's been empty ever since. We got architects to develop plans for us. We went through all the campus approval process, and we got the approvals. It was going to cost us $20 million, which is essentially all of our reserves, and it would give us just under 15,000 square feet of usable space. It's not great usable space because of the pillars and seismic reinforcement. There's not the ability to put classrooms up there, even faculty offices, but we could put centers, we could put administrative units there. In March 2020, as the pandemic and its scope was looming, I said to the Vice Chancellor, Rosemary Ray, I wanted to put the library stacks conversion project on hold because I was worried about using all of our reserves. It was the right choice. It was supposed to begin construction on May 18th, 2020 and be done for fall 2021 classes. And we obviously don't have that space. We just had it priced, and to do the same construction now will cost us $25 million. We don't have $25 million in reserves, but I'm not sure it's worth it for that. But if not that space, what can we do for space? I received $1 million gift from a donor to create a courtroom in the law school. We decided to convert Booth Auditorium. Booth hasn't changed no matter when you went to law school. It is not a desirable or attractive space. We got an architect to develop plans. That'll cost $5.5 million. I would love to raise the money to be able to convert Booth. So this is our challenge, and it's acute, and we have to face it and face it now. A third challenge we face is faculty retention. It is wonderful to have a great faculty that is in demand at law schools all over the country, but I wish the other law schools would show less love to our faculty. We are constantly facing recruitments. My first year here, we lost 3 terrific faculty to other law schools. And it hurts the schools so much when we lose them. Justin McCrary went to Columbia, Melissa Murray went to NYU, and Joseph O'Connell went to Stanford. Since then, we've had 9 retentions. We kept 7 of them, which reverses what had been the trend, but we lost 2 great faculty members this year. Bertrell Ross and Joy Milligan went to the University of Virginia. At this moment, we have 3 faculty members who have visiting offers at Harvard, 3 others who have visiting offers at Stanford, and 1 who has a tenured offer at Stanford. We have another faculty member who visited NYU last fall, and she's visiting at Cornell this spring, and also has visiting offers at Columbia and University of Chicago. That's over 10% of our faculty that are visiting away this year, or that includes next fall. I predict that each of them is going to get an offer from these other schools. We then have to retain them. And I'll be honest, there's things we can't provide them that those schools do. All of those schools provide college tuition remission for faculty children. I taught at Duke before coming to the UC, and Duke pays for 3/4 of a faculty child's tuition anywhere in the country. These other schools have phenomenal housing subsidies. We don't have any college tuition remission plan. We don't give housing subsidies. So retaining faculty is going to be a constant challenge. And we have to recruit faculty. As we lose faculty, as faculty retire, it's crucial that we recruit faculty who are truly stars or predict to be stars in their field. So again, when I'm asked what keeps me up worrying at night, faculty retention or recruitment. A fourth concern I have is with regard to development. The reality is that Berkeley Law has lagged far behind our peer schools with regard to development. Why is that? Well, for so long, the school was subsidized by the campus in the state of California. It didn't need to create a development apparatus. Also, it didn't need to inculcate in its students the sense that they're going to be alums and will be expected to give back. I am so proud of our current development team. Mary Matheran came to us a few years ago, having me director of development at Yale and at Georgetown Law Schools. And the entire development team are really superb. And we see it in all the things that they've done. As an example, Berkeley never had alumni chapters. All of our peer schools have alumni chapters. Mary and her team have created alumni chapters in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Los Angeles, DC, and soon New York. This is a way to engage alumni in our programs. Berkeley traditionally didn't do a very good job of engaging alumni to be involved in the school. Again, the development office has done a great job of getting our alumni involved in recruiting prospective students, in mentoring incoming students, in being involved in the programs of the law school. As I said, Berkeley historically didn't do much to make students feel that they'd soon be alumni. I spent 21 years as a professor at the University of Southern California. It's masterful at that. Mary and Aaron Deneen and others created a great program, the Berkeley Alumni in Residence Program. Spelling, BEAR. And when we're able to do so, they provide free coffee for students on Monday mornings. They do a halfway through law school celebration for them. They give stress relief bags to the 1Ls before their first exams, and so on. And I'm convinced that this will pay off. But let me put this in numbers in terms of the challenge. When I arrived, we had 18% annual giving among alumni. Thanks to Mary and her team, we've increased that to 20%, which a 2% increase in a couple of years is a big deal. But the University of Virginia, that's just ahead of us in the US News ranking, has 55% annual alumni giving. The University of Michigan, that's just below us, has 35% annual giving. We need to do much better in annual alumni giving and also in overall giving. And you understand what I mean in terms of how the real concern is with having resources to compete with peer schools. That's going to depend so much on whether we're successful in our development effort. What I so often want to say to our alumni is, you had the chance to go to Berkeley Law without crushing debt. Please, nothing else, give to this generation of law students and let them have what you did. Let Berkeley have the resources that it needs to be a top 10 or top 5 law school. It really depends on our alumni. And my fifth and final concern is being sure that we always fulfill our mission. What does it mean to be a public law school when we're receiving almost no public dollars? I think what means to be a public law school is our public mission. And the public mission permeates every aspect of what we do as a law school. I mentioned our pro bono work, mentioned our clinics. There's the aid we give to our students in the summers, fellowships after graduation, our loan repayment assistance program, the work of our centers, and so much more. Well, there's much we need to do here, and these are the challenges ahead. We have a terrific in-house clinic, but it's very small. We have 9 clinical professors. At Irvine, I had 10 clinical professors for a law school that was so much smaller. We've got to increase the size of our clinics. They don't begin to meet student demand. Too many students who want a clinic are turned away. And so what I've committed to is creating 5 new clinical professorships over the course of the next 5 years. I want to create 2 new clinical professorships just for the coming year, and 3 additional in the years after that. But having the resources for that is absolutely essential. I want to increase our ability to help students who are doing public interest work in the summers or after law school. We previously had one of the best loan repayment assistance programs in the country. It's still good, but I can't tell you any longer that it's among the very best. We need to increase our loan repayment assistance program to facilitate students who are going to pursue careers in public service. This is our mission as a law school. And this too, of course, is going to depend on having the resources to do it. So those are the challenges that I see. As you may know, at Berkeley, deans serve for a 5-year term. I'm, and this is astounding to say, in my 5th year. This is my 5th reunion. It's been an amazing experience. Certainly, it's been challenges that I could have never expected, given all that's gone on with regard to the pandemic. But I'm so thrilled to be part of Berkeley and so honored to be its dean. I have told the chancellor and provost that I would be delighted and honored to serve another 5-year term as dean. And that review is ongoing now. If I'm fortunate enough to be reappointed, I've outlined to you what my goals are for the next years. I want very much to put us on a very solid financial footing by the time I'm done being dean. I want to solve the space crisis, not only immediately, but we need to deal with it for years to come. I want to have in place a program to retain our best faculty and continue to recruit great faculty. I want to continue the trend that Mary Matherin has started with regard to development. And I want to do ever more with regard to public service. So I said I would talk for about half the time and use half the time for questions. I've spoken for 30 minutes. So with that, Whitney, if there's questions, let's go through them. And if there's not questions, I got lots more I can say about the law school. Whitney, are you there?
Hi, Erwin. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to turn on the light, which went out. So I'll listen while you do that.
Sounds good. So yes, we can start with some questions. Tomorrow marks the 48th anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. That law, along with the Americans with Disabilities Act, as well as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, were at least partially born in Berkeley, the cradle of the disability rights movement. When will Berkeley Law create a robust department, program, curriculum, and practicum to train the next generation of disability rights law advocates and change makers?
I hope we're already doing many of those things now. We have courses in the area of disability law. In fact, Arlene Mayerson, who is so crucial with regard to the things that you mentioned, is teaching for us this semester in that area. I created a committee on accessibility for students, staff, and faculty with disabilities, and it gave me a detailed report, and I committed to adopting all of the recommendations in that report. So for example, as a result of that report, we hired a full-time person in the Dean of Students office, a new staff position, focusing just on accessibility for students with disabilities. There's obviously much more that can be done, and I welcome your suggestions for what it is we should do and how we should go about it. But I got to tell you, we're doing a lot already.
Great. I understand you have a new book out. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Thank you. I didn't plant that question. I think other than talking about my grandchildren, the thing I would most like to talk about is the new book. The book is Presumed Guilty: How the Supreme Court Empowered the Police and Subverted Civil Rights. I was pleased that it was reviewed favorably in last Sunday's New York Times. In tomorrow's New York Times, it's noted it's one of the editor's books of note. It's a historical examination of how the Supreme Court has dealt with the police. There are several constitutional provisions concerning policing. The Fourth Amendment, which limits when police can stop, arrest, search people. The Fifth Amendment, that limits how police can question people because of privilege against self-incrimination. Due process, that limits how police can do witness identification procedures. The thesis of the book is that throughout American history, the Supreme Court has not used these provisions to constrain the police, but instead, either by silence or by decisions, has very much empowered the police. And this has led to racialized policing. A Black man has 9 times more the chance to be killed by police in the United States than any other citizen. I can certainly talk at length about the book, but let me take the other questions about the law school. And if there's time, I'm certainly glad to answer more questions about the book and go as much detail as anybody wants.
Okay. Thank you. Are you in Berkeley Law involved in the process of challenging California's recall procedure? And what is the status of that challenge?
The recall is over. The voters of California denied the recall, but now I believe that the challenge is to change the recall procedure so as to make it a much more sensible and rational procedure. Let me give you examples of what I mean, and then I'll talk about at least how I'm involved. It takes far too few signatures to get a recall on the ballot in California. In California, it takes only 12% of the number of voters from the last election to sign petitions. Given that people pay for signature gathering, that's not hard to do. There are 19 states, including California, that have recall procedures. In all the other states, it takes many more signatures. It takes 33%, or in one state, 40%. That can be changed by the California legislature by statute. It doesn't take a constitutional amendment. If there's going to be a recall, it should be at the time of the next regularly scheduled election. It shouldn't be a random Tuesday in September. That depresses turnout. That too would not require a constitutional amendment. It can be done by statute. I think one of the great flaws in the recall procedure, and Aaron Adlin, a professor at Berkeley Law, and I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times and another in the LA Times about this, is it could lead to the irrational result that more people could want the governor to stay in office than any challenger, but a challenge with far fewer votes ends up becoming governor. Imagine if on September 14th, Gavin Newsom had lost the recall, he would have had 48 or 49% wanting to stay as governor. Imagine that the leading challenger got 20% of the votes. That's who would become the governor of the state. We need to change that. An easy way would be to amend the Constitution to say if the governor is recalled, the lieutenant governor becomes governor. After all, if the governor leaves office for any other reason, the lieutenant governor becomes the governor. Another way that we could accomplish this would be to have a unified ballot where we ask who should be the governor when there's a recall petition that's got enough signatures, and the governor can be listed there. I could go on with other possibilities. I'm very closely in touch with members of the legislature who are working on this issue. Whitney, I think you just scheduled a meeting for Thursday with them. So I don't know what others in the law school are doing, but this is an issue that I'm certainly personally involved in.
Thank you. Do you believe that Justice Breyer missed his window to retire at least until the end of the 2021-2022 term?
I don't think he's going to retire till the earliest, the June, July 2022. I think if he was going to retire before this term, he would have done so this past July. Stephen Breyer is 83 years old. He's in good health by all accounts. In March 2014, I wrote an op-ed in the Los Angeles Times urging Justice Ginsburg to retire. I said, it looked like the Republicans were going to win the Senate in November of 2014. They did. I said, there's no way to know what's going to happen in the November 2016 election. That sure turns out to be an understatement. And I said, if she wants someone with her values and views to take her place, now is the time to step down when there's a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate. To my great surprise, she reacted very angrily to that op-ed. She made clear through mutual friends that she really was mad at me and upset that I would say such a thing. I was deluged with hate mail. In fact, even people who usually agree with me about things like Dahlia Lithwick were very critical. She remained on the court until she died on September 18th, 2020, and President Trump replaced her with somebody who could not be more different ideologically, Amy Coney Barrett. Justice Ginsburg gambled, and we lost. That's why I wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post this past spring, urging Justice Breyer to step down. He didn't. Perhaps he's going to decide he'll wait until June, July of 2022, thinking there'll still be a Democratic Senate then, and his replacement will be confirmed. There is a risk there. As everyone knows, the Senate is 50-50. If one Democratic senator leaves and is replaced by a Republican, the Democrats lose control of the Senate. To make this less abstract, Patrick Leahy from Vermont is 87 years old and has some health challenges. There is a Republican governor in Vermont. If Leahy leaves and a Republican replaces him, the Democrats lose the Senate. So Breyer waiting until June, July 2022 has risks. I don't know if he's going to retire even then in June, July 2022. He's given a number of interviews recently because he has a new book, and he certainly hasn't indicated where he is in his thinking, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Great. Thank you, Erwin. Non-lawyers often discount the importance of lawyers and consequently the importance of legal education. What is your elevator pitch for the need for legal education? What changes in legal education would you like to see?
I wrote an op-ed in the Daily Journal that I'd love to make available to our alumni. Mary, I know you're on the call, and it answers the question, should you go to law school? There had been an editorial or an article in the Wall Street Journal questioning this again, and it was really written in response to that, though not discussing it specifically. It's my answer to the question, should you go to law school? And I always ask people who want to go to law school, undergraduates, prospective law students, two questions. First, do you want to do the things that you can do only with a law degree? And I always talk about the ways in which law is ultimately a service profession. It has a chance to help people in the most difficult and vulnerable times of their lives. When a loved one dies, when someone's going through a divorce, when somebody's being criminally prosecuted. Also, I always point out that law is the most powerful tool for social change. And it gives people the ability to work to advance their vision of a better society and a better world. That law offers the opportunity for a career that is constantly intellectually challenging and offers the opportunity for so many different experiences over the course of a career. And the second question I was asked is, what would you do instead of law school? Because it's always a comparative judgment. If I hadn't gone to law school, I would have been a high school teacher. I took all the classes to become a certified high school teacher, did my student teaching, and then decided to go to law school. Well, you have to compare what you would do instead. I graduated from law school, or even better, I started law school in 1975, which is almost a half century ago. I've never for a day regretted my choice to go to law school. 2 of my 4 children are now law school graduates. One who's been practicing for over a decade and very much loves the practice of law. Being a lawyer, going to law school isn't for everyone, but I do think that it's a wonderful profession. And so those are the things that I would say is my elevator pitch. In terms of what I'd like to see change in law school, what I would most like to see changed is impossible. I'd like to see it cost so much less. Our students graduate with just crushing debt. Our tuition is now over $60,000 a year, just like all of our peer schools are. There's no easy way to change that. I mentioned that 20% of our budget goes to student scholarships. Well, 65% of our budget goes to faculty and staff salaries and benefits. We can't cut those. We have very little that we can cut from our budget, as we saw last year the hard way. So I don't know of any way to make law school or to make higher education cheaper. The only thing to do is the more money we can raise, the better we can do in development, the easier we can make it for students to things like scholarship and other forms of assistance. I'd like to see law schools do more with regard to practical education. I had the chance to be the founding dean of the law school at UC Irvine, and we had the wonderful opportunity of a blank slate. One of the first things we did was decide we were going to require every student to have an in-house clinical experience in order to graduate. And we were able to commit enough faculty slots to be able to do that. We have a long way to go at Berkeley to be able to do that, even counting our wonderful relationship with East Bay Community Law Center. So if there's anything I could change, provide more practical training for law students while they're in law school.
Great. Thank you, Erwin. Are emeriti faculty still involved in the law school? For example, Dick Bucksbaum, Bob Cole, Jesse Choper, are they still around and involved?
The emeriti faculty are involved to varying degrees, often dependent on their health. Dick Bucksbaum is very much involved. He's 90 years old. He comes to all of our faculty workshops, the job talks by faculty candidates, and events at the law school. I think he taught a class, not last year, the year before. Jesse is in his office almost every day, and Jesse is very involved. Bob Cole is involved, though I think physically less present than Dick or Jesse. And other emeriti faculty are involved to varying degrees. We certainly include them in everything. They're wonderfully valued members of our community. Mel Eisenberg has been involved and has a new book coming out by Cambridge University Press on legal reasoning.
Thank you. Many alumni remain frustrated that John Yoo continues to work at Berkeley Law's faculty. Why is he still employed on campus, and why should we still support the law school while he's there?
John Yoo is a tenured professor. When he returned from his service in the Bush Justice Department, the question was directly put to university counsel as to whether or not, based on the memos he wrote, his tenure could be revoked. The university counsel said emphatically and unequivocally there was no legal basis for revoking his tenure. One of those frequent things that I hear from alumni when we do solicitations is responses that say, I'm not going to contribute to the law school as long as John Yoo is a faculty member. There is nothing that we could possibly do since he is a tenured faculty member and there's no legal basis for revoking tenure. What I always say to faculty members who feel that way is, if you're not comfortable giving to the law school, give to the students. Direct your gift to student scholarships, and we spent just on student scholarships. Don't punish the students because of something they can't control and that I as dean can't control. Let the students of this generation have what you did, or at least most of you are on this call, a Berkeley Law education without crushing debt. None of you had to pay $60,000 a year to go to Berkeley Law. So the answer to the question is, John Yoo is a tenured member of the faculty, and the university council has opined that we cannot revoke his tenure, but don't let that keep you from at least helping our students.
Thank you. You've mentioned the debt that our students face when they graduate. Are there any other challenges they're facing finding employment now?
Thankfully, the students are doing great with regard to employment. For the class of 2019, 98% plus had full-time JD required law jobs 10 months after graduation. And that's close to full employment. And the reason I say that is there's always a few students who are going to get a PhD or an MBA or taking time off for family reasons before going into the workforce. So they don't count as employed. For the class that graduated in, that was the class that graduated in 2018. The class that graduated in 2019 was 96% employment. And that was a little artificially low because there were a few students who had full-time jobs but hadn't started yet because the later bar schedule. That was the class, I'm getting years. So there's the class of 2020. The first was class 2019. We don't yet have the statistics of the class of 2021. So I was right the first time. The class of 2019 was 98%. The class of 2020, it was about 96%. So our students are doing great in the job market. And for all of you who are on this call, who are interviewing and hiring our students, thank you. You make it possible for this. So the challenge for our students isn't in finding jobs. There's always, a few students who struggle with that. The challenge really is the crushing debt.
Thank you. How do you feel that the COVID experience in the last 17 months has affected the law school community?
On the one hand, I can point to the good. It's shown the tremendous resiliency of our community. It's shown how our community pulls together when it needs to. When we went into lockdown, we realized that many of our staff and students were having financial emergencies. We immediately created emergency funds for our staff and our students. You, the alumni, came forward and gave us money for the student emergency fund. They made all the difference in so many of their lives. On the other hand, there's also been a cost to the last 17 months. What makes Berkeley Law special is the warm community. It's very hard to be such a community when we're all kept separate by circumstances and interact just over computers. Think about it this way. When we started classes on August 16th, only our returning 3L students of all of our students had ever been in the building. the 2Ls, the 1Ls, the LMs had never even been in the law school building. In terms of being a community, it requires a physical presence together. And I think COVID has made that difficult. We're back in person, though all wearing masks at all times while in the building. There's limits on the ability to have food together. You can't have food at student events if they're inside. Cafe Zeb is still open, but has to check to make sure that customers are fully vaccinated. So we're still not by any means back to normal, but it's a whole lot closer this year than the year before. So there's good and bad from it. My hope is that we come out of the experience when normalcy returns, a stronger, more united, even better community.
Thank you, Erwin. And I think we are out of questions. So just a couple of notes, and then I'll turn it back over to you. We were not able to find the article, but we will find it in the next week and post it to the page where we're sharing all of our union materials. And also want to remind everyone that a lot of the events and podcasts associated with this event are available on the website that I am posting in the chat right now. And I will turn it back to Erwin to wrap things up.
I'll use this as an opportunity to thank all in our development and events staff who planned the reunion. It takes an enormous amount of work, and I think you've seen the product of that in the 2 terrific days of programs. I want to thank all of you who are here or who watch this on video for taking time from your schedules to be part of Berkeley Law. I want to thank you for that and certainly encourage you to be involved and to support us in whatever way you can. And I want to emphasize that I'm always eager to hear your thoughts and suggestions, to talk about any concerns you have about the law school. I'd give you my email address. It's my first initial and my last name at law.berkeley.edu. But you can also find me easily on the website. As I always say, I'm the only Chemerinsky on the Berkeley Law website. So you can certainly find me and never hesitate to write to me, or you can call me. Whitney can schedule a time for us to talk. I want very much to do all I can to have our alumni engaged. I look forward to, as this wave, the Delta variant recedes, being able to travel around the country and see our alums. I so missed being able to do that over the last 18 months, but I want to go back and go to all of the cities where we have alumni and hold alumni events and see you in person and hear about your experiences when you were at Berkeley Law. Mary, unless there's anything else, I think we can be adjourned.
We can be adjourned. Thank you, Erwin, for your leadership, for your courage, for your inspiration. You've made the last 18 months bearable, and you've helped our alumni community stay together, grow deeper, and we're looking forward to the next 5 years of your service on behalf of the law school. I'm sure it's just a question of somebody signing off on a document, but I know law school has benefited more from strong leadership in this school, and we are immensely grateful. And thank you to all the alumni for joining us for our events. And as Erwin said, we're so looking forward to hopefully seeing everyone at some point over the course of this next year, but definitely on campus for what we hope will be a huge reunion celebration in the fall of 2022. Please stay safe, everyone.